Look, I'm just going to say what everyone in Toronto is thinking, but nobody wants to admit out loud. The Blue Jays are about to make the biggest mistake of their offseason, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. We're talking about Ketel Marte, the Diamondbacks' second baseman that everyone suddenly thinks is the answer to Toronto's problems. Spoiler alert, he's not. And before you click away thinking this is just another hot take, hear me out, because the numbers tell a story that nobody in the front office wants you to see. The Marte discussions aren't just happening, they're gaining momentum. And here's where it gets interesting. The Blue Jays are positioning this as their contingency plan if they miss out on Kyle Tucker. Think about that for a second. Your backup plan is a 31-year-old infielder who just had a career year, not his age, 28 season, not 29, 31. You know what usually happens after career years at 31? Regression. Sharp, painful regression that leaves front offices looking foolish and fans wondering what happened to all that optimism from December. But let's talk about what's really going on here, because this isn't just about Ketel Marte. This is about the Blue Jays making the same exact mistake they've made for the past 3 years. They're chasing names instead of building a coherent roster. They're going after the shiny object because it makes headlines, because it gets fans excited, because it looks like they're doing something. And meanwhile, the actual holes in this roster, the real problems that kept them from winning it all, those are getting ignored. Everyone wants to talk about Marty's bat. Sure, he had a great season. He can hit. He can get on base. He's got power for a middle infielder, but nobody wants to have the uncomfortable conversation about what the Blue Jays would have to give up to get him. Arizona isn't stupid. They know they have leverage. They know Toronto is desperate. They know that desperation makes teams overpay and overpay badly. We're not talking about giving up a couple of mid-tier prospects here. We're talking about gutting the farm system for a player who might give you 2 good years if you're lucky. And here's the part that should terrify every Blue Jays fan. The same front office that's pursuing this trade just gave Dylan Cease a massive deal. They signed Tyler Rogers. They brought in Cody Ponce. They're spending money and trading assets like they're 1 or 2 pieces away from dominance. But are they? Really? Because last time I checked, this team has serious questions in the bullpen beyond Rogers. Their starting rotation depth is questionable at best, and their outfield defense is still a liability. But sure, let's go trade away our future for a second baseman when we haven't even addressed the fundamentals. The Marte trade talks are described as not hot yet, which is front office speak for we're absolutely going to do this, but we're testing the waters first to see how much public backlash we'll get. And the fact that Shane Baz and Ryan Pipiot from the Rays are being discussed as potential pieces going back to Arizona, that tells you everything you need to know about how complicated this is getting. The Diamondbacks don't just want prospects. They want major league ready pitching. They want the kind of assets that immediately make them competitive. And Toronto, in their infinite wisdom, seems willing to give it to them. Let's be brutally honest about something else. The Blue Jays are acting like a team that thinks their window is closing, and maybe it is. But you know what accelerates a closing window faster than anything? Mortgaging your future for short-term gains that don't actually address your core issues. You want to know why teams like the Rays and the Guardians consistently compete despite smaller payrolls? Because they don't panic, they don't chase, they build systematically, and they trust their process. The Blue Jays are doing the opposite. They're in full panic mode, and panic leads to bad decisions. The real controversy here isn't whether Ketel Marte is good. He is. The controversy is whether he's the right fit for this team at this moment in time for the price that Arizona is going to demand. And I'm telling you right now, he's not. This is a win-now move for a team that hasn't proven it can win now, even with the pieces it already has. They had their chance. They made the World Series and couldn't finish. And instead of doing a proper analysis of why they fell short, they're just adding more pieces and hoping it works out differently this time. You know what's really going on? The front office is terrified of standing pat. They're terrified of telling the fan base that maybe, just maybe, they need to take a step back and rebuild the right way. Because that's not sexy. That doesn't sell tickets. That doesn't generate buzz on social media. But you know what else doesn't generate buzz? Missing the playoffs entirely because you traded away all your depth for a quick fix that didn't fix anything. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. BOMBSHELL. The Blue Jays are supposedly considering a reunion with BOMBSHELL while also pursuing Ketel Marte. So which is it? Are you rebuilding around young talent, or are you going all in on veterans? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't tell your fan base you're building for sustained success while simultaneously making trades that sacrifice long-term stability for short-term production. That's not a plan. That's chaos masquerading as strategy. The Marte trade represents everything wrong with modern baseball front offices. It's reactionary, it's expensive, it's risky, and it's being sold as necessary when really it's just convenient. It's easier to trade for a known commodity than to develop talent. It's easier to point to a 31-year-old all-star and say, look, we got better than it is to trust your scouting department and player development system. But easy doesn't win championships. Smart wins championships. And this isn't smart. Here's what should happen but won't. The Blue Jays should walk away from the Ketel Marte talks entirely. They should focus on signing Kyle Tucker if that's possible. They should address their bullpen with smart, cost-effective moves. They should give their young players a chance to develop instead of trading them away for aging veterans. They should build a roster that can compete not just next year but for the next 5 years. But they won't do any of that because it requires patience, and patience is a foreign concept in Toronto right now. The worst part about all of this, when the Marte trade eventually happens, and it probably will, the initial reaction is going to be positive. Fans will be excited. Analysts will praise the move. Social media will explode with optimism. And then reality will set in. Maybe it's his age catching up to him. Maybe it's the pressure of playing in Toronto. Maybe it's just bad luck. But something will go wrong. Because these desperate win-now trades almost always do. And when it does, everyone will act surprised, like there weren't warning signs everywhere. So yeah, the Blue Jays are pursuing Ketel Marte, and yeah, it's probably going to happen. And yeah, it's probably going to be a disaster. But hey, at least it'll make for great content when we're sitting here next December talking about how it all went wrong and wondering why nobody saw it coming, except we did see it coming. We just chose to ignore it because hope is more comfortable than reality. And that's the real tragedy of the Ketel Marte trade saga. Not that it's happening, but that we all know how it ends, and we're going along with it anyway.